Hi everyone, welcome to my channel or welcome back to my channel. I'm Amma Mama. I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday so far. It is December 30th when I'm actually recording this. So we are almost to the new year. I wanted to go ahead and make a video of my January TBR. It might be like a little chaotic because I've realized that in addition to all the books that I have on my little shelf of everything that I own but haven't read, I also have like my Kindle books, and then I have books that I bought even though I hadn't really intended on buying new books. I went to Barnes & Noble and had ended up buying a bunch of stuff. And then I also had some giveaways that I won on Goodreads that I have a few books. And so what I want to try to do for January, I don't know if I'm going to be biting off more than I can chew. I read a lot in November and December, and so maybe I'm hoping that I'll keep that momentum up in January. So I'm gonna see how thick some of the books are that I end up getting for my TBR. And that might help me decide how many exactly I'm going to pick. But what I want to do is I want to pick the majority of them from what I already have on my shelves. I want to pick one from my Kindle library. And then I want to pick one from my Goodreads giveaways. And like I said, I think I have 3 left that I haven't read. So I want to pick one of those. And then I want to pick, I already know one that I'm going to read from the stack that I bought, but I'm thinking maybe one more from the new ones that I got from Barnes & Noble. And then to top it off, I have a book club that I'm going to try out in my area. And so I have the book for that one that I don't have the physical copy of yet. That's going to be coming, and so I'll have that one as well. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to, well, first I'm going to start with I am reading the last book in the Dark Tower series, and it's just called The Dark Tower 7 by Stephen King. I'm not quite halfway through, but I'm probably not going to finish this in the next couple of days. It's got like just short of, 845 pages, and I'm on 362. And so I'm not quite halfway through with this book. So it'll probably take me a few more days to finish that. But this one, it's a copy from the library, so I kind of wanted to make sure to finish that. And plus I had finished everything in my December TBR already. So this is going to be the first one that I'll kind of include in my January TBR. I'm not going to say a whole lot about this yet, again, because it's part of a series and it's the end of the series. There's not really a whole lot I can tell about it that doesn't spoil some of the stuff, especially from the other books, but it's just the continuing story of Roland and his group and how they're trying to save the Dark Tower. And I wish I could say a whole lot more than that, but there is stuff on the back of the book, but it might not make a lot of sense if you haven't read the other books. So I'm not going to read all of that, but I am enjoying this. This one, compared to the last one, has a lot more kind of like gruesome-y horror kind of stuff in it that has made me have to put it down a little more often just to give myself a break, because otherwise it stresses me out a little bit. So I'm a little bit worried too about what's on my shelf, because I have a lot of horror stuff that I've had over the years that I just haven't read. And so I will also see how this goes with me maybe having to read a bunch of horror. I mean, I have other stuff on the shelf too, but I'm a little scared if I pull out only horror, I might I might rethink the TBR a little bit, but it's really good. I'm enjoying it. It's not that it's like super scary. It's just that some of it has been a little bit gory, and I don't like gore that much. And some of it has just been, I don't know, some of it has just been a little bit stressful for me, or like increases my anxiety a little bit. I don't know. So even though I'm liking it a lot and I'm enjoying this book immensely, I do have to like, I'll read for like 20-30 minutes and then I need to put it down for a little while and then I pick it back up. So I've been reading this for several days now, but I guess even in spite of that, I keep picking it back up. And so, you know, I'm still like halfway through, even though I've only been reading it for a few days. So that'll be the first one that I'm calling on my TBR. I'm gonna go ahead and let's pick, this is the jar that I made of everything that I have on my physical bookshelf that I've owned. So I'm gonna start with picking something from here. Make sure I just get one slip to start with. And the first one I have is A Man Called Blessed. This one is A Man Called Blessed. This is Bill Bright and Ted Decker. And it says, one beautiful Jew, one militant Muslim, one desperate Christian, three zealots who will plunge the Middle East into a bitter war or bring true peace. Well, that's interesting. Rebecca Solomon leads a crack team of Israeli commandos deep into the Ethiopian desert to hurt the one man who may know the final resting place of the Ark of the Covenant. But Islamic fundamentalists fear that the Ark's discovery will compel Israel to rebuild Solomon's temple on the very site of their own holy mosque in Jerusalem. They immediately dispatch Ismail, their most accomplished assassin, to pursue the same man. But the man in their sights is no ordinary man. His name is Caleb, and he too is on a quest to find again the love he once embraced as a child. A deadly cat and mouse game unfolds. Tensions skyrocket as the world awakens to the drama in the desert. The fate of 1 million souls rests in the hands of these three. Okay, well, I don't know what to say about the whole war piece. We will see. I normally really like Ted Decker. I've obviously had this book for a long time. The pages are kind of yellowing. It's from 2002. So I mean, it's old, but it's not, I don't know, it's not as old as what I thought it might be. So that is the next one on my TBR. All right, I will go ahead and pick another one from my jar. All right, Skeleton Crew. I know this is Stephen King. It is probably down here. Now, Skeleton Crew. All right, Skeleton Crew, Stephen King. I believe this one is a series of short stories. But let me check. But I think that's what Skeleton Crew is. Yeah, this is a bunch of Skeleton Crews. So if you're familiar with Stephen King, like The Mist is in here, The Monkey. See if there's anything that jumps out at me also. Those are the only two. I know that The Mist, that one was turned into a movie, and I think they also I think they did a series on that one also. So this one's a bunch of short stories. So we will see. I don't mind short stories sometimes, but I tend to prefer like full length novels. So we'll see. I haven't read these before. So got The Mist. I also, just so you know, I'm still working on Edgar Allan Poe. I am about 56%, according to Goodreads, through this book. So I'm just slowly plugging away. I've been working on this one since September 2nd, I believe it was. And pretty much I've just been reading one story a day out of this book in the mornings. And some of them I've been kind of either confused or didn't really enjoy that much, or you know, they weren't my favorite because of the writing, or very technical though, like specifications of a hot air balloon and some of that stuff. But some of them have been really good. So I am enjoying it, but I'm not trying to read this one quickly. I'm just kind of slowly, a story at a time, trying to read that one. Then I will just get this one out of the way. I am going to read, oh, I'm dropping my books. I am going to read Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. I loved Fourth Wing. It's a little dusty. I still have high hopes for Iron Flame. I've heard some people review it and say they loved it. I've heard some people say they were a little disappointed in it. I am going to kind of hold my judgment until I read it for myself and see what I think. Especially when I'm reading a series, I try not to be too, I don't know, I try to be a little bit forgiving, I guess, especially of subsequent books in a series, because I tend to assume that they're not going to be quite as good as the first one. Even in the Stephen King, the Dark Tower series, a couple of the books in that series have not been my favorite. They've been good, I've enjoyed them, but they haven't been my favorite, even with his writing. But overall, the series is wonderful and I would highly recommend it. So I'm kind of reserving judgment because I'm hoping that it's going to be kind of like that even if I don't like everything about this book, or if I don't love it as much as I loved Fourth Wing, that I will still enjoy it for what it is and enjoy, you know, the story that unfolds. So I'm going to read Iron Flame. So right now I've got four, if I include Stephen King. But like I said, I want to get some more off of my shelf. So I'm trying to take care of those. These are all stuck together. Let go. All right. I made these papers very small. Okay, then we have Haunted Heartland. The book that I picked is Haunted Heartland. It's actually true ghost stories from the American Midwest. So this one also is a bunch of short stories. Okay, somehow I have the cover on one way, but the book was upside down. I was like, what is going on here? Let me fix this. Okay, so this is a bunch of short stories. Haunted Heartland is a compilation of the unbelievable and the fantastic: ghosts, haunted houses, possessions and exorcisms, vanishing people, mysterious lights, spontaneous combustions, poltergeist, and dreams of premonition. Authors Scott and Norman have collected over 150 true ghost stories from America's heartland: Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, Ohio, and Wisconsin. What is perhaps most striking about the Haunted Heartland is that each of the stories originated in these supposedly peaceful states, from haunted mansions in Ohio to a Nebraska classroom lost in time, and from haunted manganese mines in northern Minnesota to ancient specters wandering the Ozark Hills of Missouri. Scott and Norman laid to rest the notion that hauntings occur only in moss-draped southern plantations or shuttered clapboard cottages along the Maine coast. All of the incidents have been reported as fact to the authors. Whatever the tale or whatever the locale, the stories in Haunted Heartland will cause you to stop and ponder the perplexing world of the supernatural. Short stories, again, that's 2 short stories. I'm a little nervous about this one, so I will see how it goes. There's a chance if it's stressing me out, I may DNF this one. When I was young, I used to love reading stuff about the occult. I was obsessed with the Amityville house. I loved all of that kind of stuff. As an adult, it just tends to stress me out. Like even fictional movies, whatever the new, I don't remember what the title is, but there's a new kind of exorcist kind of movie out, and it involves like two little girls and they disappear and they come back, and I think they're both possessed or something. But anyways, the extended preview had come on one day while I was watching YouTube, and so I watched the preview, and just even from the preview or from the trailer, I was like, nope, I won't be able to watch this. And then I had like nightmares that night because of it. So I just, for whatever reason, my brain, maybe it's just overactive in my older age. Like as I'm aging, maybe my brain just is too overactive to handle that kind of stuff. But I was like, as much as I think I would have loved that movie when I was young, there's no way I could watch it now, because if the trailer gave me bad dreams, I don't even know what would happen if I saw the actual movie. So this one we'll see. I'm gonna give it a try, but I have a feeling that's why it's been on my shelf for so long. This was actually one that had been my daughter's, and when she moved back to Arizona, she left all of her books here. I have a whole box of her stuff, but this is one that just happened to end up on my shelf, and I thought I would try to read it. So we'll see. I'll put it in here, but there is a chance that I might DNF that, depending. So I think I'm gonna pick, because all of these have been really big books, so I'm gonna pick one more from my shelf, and then I'll go ahead and pick another one from my new books, and then I'll pick the one from my Kindle, and then, like I said, I have another one that I've got to read for the book club that I'm going to give a try for, so I think that'll be enough. Okay, the next one that I drew out was The Bourne Supremacy. I don't know why I wrote The Bourne Supremacy, because the book that I have is actually The Bourne Identity. So that is the one I'm going to be reading, is The Bourne Identity, which is the first one anyways. So maybe I wrote it because I've seen the movies for both of those, but this is one that I found at the used bookstore near me, and I just thought maybe I would enjoy the book because I liked the movies. So we will see. This is by Robert Ludlum, and I've never read anything by this author before. It's not really the type of book I normally read, with the exception of I've been reading all of these Alex Cross novels by James Patterson that my sister gave me. So this is probably along that same, lines, but I will read that one. So that's going to be it for my bookcase. And then I wrote all my new books on some little slips that I didn't put in the jar because, like I said, I want to make sure to pick from one of those. So they're just sitting on my shelf. So I'm going to grab one of these. And I am going to be reading The Paleontologist by Luke Dumas. So this says, a haunted paleontologist returns to the museum where his sister was abducted years earlier and is faced with a terrifying and murderous spirit in this chilling novel. Curator of paleontology, Dr. Simon Neely, never expected to return to his Pennsylvania hometown, let alone the Hawthorne Museum of Natural History. He was just a boy when his 6-year-old sister Morgan was abducted from the museum under his watch, and guilt has haunted Simon ever since. After a recent breakup and the death of an aunt who raised him, Simon feels drawn back to the place where Morgan vanished in search of the bones they never found. But from the moment he arrives, things aren't what he expected. The Hawthorne is a crumbling ruin, still closed amid the ongoing pandemic and plummeting toward financial catastrophe. Worse, Simon begins seeing and hearing things he can't explain. Strange animal sounds, bloody footprints that no living creature could have left. A prehistoric killer looming in the shadows of the museum. Terrified he's losing his grip on reality, Simon turns to the handwritten research diaries of his predecessor and uncovers a blood-soaked mystery 150 million years in the making that could be the answer to everything. So it looks like this writer has written a few other books. I've not heard of him before. He's the author of a novel called A History of Fear. And then he's got some places where he had some nonfiction works. So we will see. Again, I, for whatever reason, keep pulling horror books. This one is new, from 2023. If anybody sees this who has read this, let me know what you thought of it, because I've never seen anybody talk about this book before. So I'll see, but I'm really a little bit nervous about the books that I have picked so far, because I have a whole stack of almost horror / like thriller books. And normally when I've been reading, I have some, like, I don't know, maybe I'll call them like palate cleansers in between that just kind of keep my brain from being on overdrive with all of the scary stuff. So I do have Bookshops and Bone Dust in my stack, and I also have Being Henry, The Fawns and Beyond by Henry Winkler. So there's a chance that, depending on how I'm feeling, maybe I'll do some substitutions if I need to. I'm gonna try to stick with what I've picked, but I'm a little bit nervous, I'll be honest. For my Kindle one, I'm just gonna pick the first one that's in my Kindle library, just because. Not for any reason other than I have a bunch in there that I've gotten, and I don't know, some of them I'm not even sure where they came from. Oh, well, good. This one's kind of a twofer, because the first one in my library happens to also be one of the Goodreads giveaways that I won. So this book is called The Head That Wears the Crown, and this is by Mariah Stewart. Every time I see the name, I think Martha Stewart, which it's not Martha Stewart. I don't know if you all can kind of see. Again, I will try to get a little more tech savvy. I think I know how people are getting the little pictures of the books to put into the videos. So that's a step. That's a step in the right direction. But I'm going to try to get a little more technical at some point when I have time to deal with figuring out some of the editing stuff. But for now, it's there. But so this one takes care of both of those. So this one says, a 40-something woman's ordinary life takes a royal detour in an engaging novel about embracing a family legacy and stepping up when it matters most, by New York Times bestseller author Mariah Stewart. Annalise, or Annie Gilberetti, is a divorced South Philadelphia mother of two with a 9-to-5 job when a shocking discovery turns another average day upside down. Her late grandfather was the exiled ruler of a small European country, and Annie is next in line to wear the crown and restore the monarchy. The would-be Grand Duchess of the Grand Duchy of St. Gilbert has vacation time coming, enough to take a quick trip to check it out. Still working on my coffee. It's easy to fall in love with St. Gilbert's villagers, its mysteries. Why does everyone look decades younger than they claim to be? Her family's ancestral home, Castle Blanc, so many hidden rooms and passages, and maybe just a little with the dashing Maximilian Bellamy, the captain of the castle guard. Never one to walk away from a challenge, Annie steps up, determined to be worthy of the crown that's been offered. As she, her sisters, and her children work to bring St. Gilbert into the modern age, Annie discovers a legacy of courageous women and that there's no threat too great to deny the Grand Duchess's right to the throne. Okay, so this one isn't a horror novel, and it sounds like it might be good. So I'm glad, because that gives me something to put in between some of these books. So with that one as well, let me just see if I have the name of the one that I need to read for the book club. The book that I will be reading for the book club is called Hamnet by, it says it's a novel of the plague by Maggie O'Farrell. And this one says, England, 1580, the Black Death creeps across the land, an ever-present threat, infecting the healthy, the sick, the old, and the young alike. The end of days is near, but life always goes on. A young Latin tutor, penniless and bullied by a violent father, falls in love with an extraordinary, eccentric young woman. Agnes is a wild creature who walks her family's land with a falcon on her glove and is known throughout the countryside for her unusual gifts as a healer, understanding plants and potions better than she does people. Once she settles with her husband on Henley Street in Stratford-upon-Avon, she becomes a fiercely protective mother and a steadfast, centrifugal force in the life of her young husband, whose career on the London stage is just taking off when his beloved young son succumbs to sudden fever. Okay, so it's not a horror, but it sounds like one that might be, might have some stressful stuff or might be a little heart-wrenching to read at times, so we'll see. But with that and all the other ones I've picked, that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 books on my TBR, not including Edgar Allan Poe. So we'll see how it goes. Like I said, some of these, with them all for the most part being some sort of horror, I may switch one or two of them if I find myself getting too stressed out by reading this much horror in 1 month. Or like I said, the Haunted Heartlands one, if that one is way too much for me, I may just DNF it. But I'm going to give it a try, so we'll see. But first I'm going to finish up Stephen King. Next week I should have an update on where I'm at with that. I should be finished with the Stephen King one, and then maybe I'll have had a chance to start one of the other ones. I may do a 2023 wrap-up video, but I only started really paying attention to what I read in August when I started my channel. So I think I've read 49 books since that point. And up until then, I had read some, but it was mostly read aloud stuff with my son, which I haven't even been including in this channel. But I have been reading, I had read it before, but with my daughter, but I'm rereading the Percy Jackson series with my son, especially because we wanted to watch the new series on Disney Plus, because that one looked like it was sticking closer to the books. And so we're almost finished with that set. We're on the final book. And then we even have the brand new one, The Chalice of the Gods, that will start, which I haven't looked at it. I don't know if it's supposed to be I think it's a continuation of after Percy's in college, but we've read those. And so I haven't been including any of the read aloud stuff that I do with my son. If anybody's interested in knowing what things I'm reading with the kids, let me know. Or if if anybody's interested in that kind of stuff, I don't know if anybody, I don't know if people who are watching, maybe have younger kids or whatever. My son's 10, but his reading level and what he understands and everything is at a bit of a higher level. And he's got some books that he really loves, like the Thickety series and Night books. Off the top of my head, I can't remember the name of the author who writes those, but it's the same author. And Night books was turned into a movie on Netflix, and they did a pretty good job. And then the Thickety series is one of his favorites. So anyways, if that's something that anybody's interested in, let me know, because I'm happy to include those read alouds that we do also, just for reference information or whatever, if you're curious. Other than that, I hope you all have a wonderful new year. Stay safe. If you are somebody who, goes out to bring in the new year, I will be lucky if I'm even awake to bring in the new year. My son always wants to stay up, and I I try, but man, it's not like when I was young and I would go out with friends to celebrate or even just stay home and, we'd sometimes have a New Year's party at home. Now I'm lucky if I keep my eyes open until midnight. So maybe I'll be awake. Who knows? But however you celebrate, if you celebrate, just stay safe and I will see you all next week. Bye.